It was one of those ordinary Tuesday evenings that somehow managed to feel a little magical. The golden glow of the setting sun was filtering through the kitchen window as I stirred a pot of marinara sauce on the stove. The scent of garlic, basil, and tomatoes filled the air, mixing with the quiet hum of our old ceiling fan. I was in my favorite worn apron, humming along to a soft country tune on the radio, completely immersed in preparing dinner. My name is Rachel, and life hasn't been exactly easy the past couple of years. After my husband Mark passed away unexpectedly, I was left trying to put together the shattered pieces of our home, mostly for the sake of his son, my stepson, Tyler. He was just 17 when it happened, on the brink of adulthood, navigating grief and identity all at once. We weren't always close in the beginning. There were boundaries, hesitations, and the lingering presence of his late mother that neither of us knew how to address. But over time, we began to find a rhythm, two people trying to figure out how to live again. Tyler was 20 now, tall and athletic, with those piercing grey eyes like his dad's and a quiet confidence that reminded me of Mark more and more each day. He had just come home from his second year in college and was staying with me for a few weeks over the summer. Having him home made the house feel alive again, like it hadn't truly breathed since Mark left. That evening, as I chopped some parsley, I heard the back door creak open and his footsteps enter the kitchen. He paused for a second, standing by the doorway, and I looked up to see him leaning casually against the frame, arms crossed, with a curious look on his face. "Smells incredible in here," he said, smiling. "Just your favorite," I replied. "Spaghetti and meatballs, extra sauce, and garlic bread coming up." He stepped further into the kitchen, grabbed a piece of cheese from the counter, and popped it into his mouth. "You spoil me." I chuckled and tossed the parsley into the pot. "That's what moms are for." He was quiet for a moment, then leaned against the counter. "Hey, can I ask you something kind of personal?" I turned and gave him a soft smile, wiping my hands on my apron. "Of course, honey. What is it?" Tyler hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck like he always did when he was nervous. "It's just, I've been thinking a lot lately. About Dad. And about how things have changed since he passed." My heart softened at the mention of Mark. It still hurt to think about him, but I also knew how important it was for Tyler to open up. "Go on," I encouraged gently. He looked down at his feet, then back up at me. "You've always been there for me, even when you didn't have to be. And I don't think I ever really told you how much I appreciate that." I blinked, feeling emotion rise in my chest. "Tyler, you don't have to thank me. You're my family." He stepped closer and pulled out a chair at the kitchen table, sitting down across from me. "I know. That's what makes this a little hard to ask." I set the spoon down and gave him my full attention. His voice was steady, but I could tell it was taking a lot for him to say whatever was coming next. "I've been thinking about how we kind of fell apart after Dad died, but you held things together." "You held me together," he said quietly. "You were more of a parent to me than anyone else has ever been. And I guess I've been wondering if you'd be okay with me calling you Mom." The air stilled for a moment. I was stunned, not because I didn't want it, but because I had waited years to hear those words. I had always loved him like my own, but I never pushed for a title or tried to replace his real mother. I just tried to be there. And now, here he was, asking to give me the one thing I never expected. I stepped around the kitchen island and knelt beside his chair, my eyes misting over. "Tyler, you have no idea what that means to me." His face lit up, relief and emotion flooding his expression. "So, it's okay?" I smiled through the tears and reached for his hand. "Of course, it's okay. I'd be honored to be called your mom." He stood and wrapped his arms around me in a tight hug, and I felt years of grief and silent hope melt away in that moment. It was the kind of embrace that made you believe healing was real, that love could grow even in the spaces left behind by loss. That night, dinner felt different. We laughed harder, shared stories of Mark, and talked about Tyler's dreams. He wanted to switch his major to psychology, maybe help kids dealing with grief or trauma. He said he understood now what it felt like to be lost and didn't want others to go through it alone. I saw so much of his father in him that night: compassion, strength, and a heart too big to measure. Over the next few weeks, things between us felt lighter. We started new traditions: morning coffee on the porch, late-night board games, Sunday hikes. It wasn't about replacing what we lost, it was about creating something new together. One afternoon, while we were organizing some boxes in the attic, we found an old photo album. Inside were pictures of our first family trip to Yosemite, the one where Mark insisted we all wear matching flannel shirts, and Tyler had complained the entire time until we got ice cream. We sat on the attic floor laughing until our stomachs hurt, remembering that ridiculous squirrel that stole our sandwich. "I forgot how happy we all were," Tyler said softly, flipping the page. "We still can be," I replied. Later that night, he surprised me by printing out a photo from that trip, the one of the three of us sitting by the campfire, arms around each other. He framed it and placed it on the living room mantel. "For our family," he said simply. As summer went on, I found myself thinking more and more about how life had changed. Losing Mark had felt like the end of everything. But in truth, it became a new beginning, one that allowed Tyler and me to build something honest and real. He didn't just become a son to me, I became a mother in the truest sense of the word. One evening, just before he was set to return to college, we had dinner on the back patio, watching the fireflies dance through the garden. He clinked his glass of lemonade against mine and said, "To new chapters. To love that never really ends," I added. That was the night he told me he had started writing a book, something about his journey through grief, identity, and healing. He said he wanted to dedicate it to his dad and to me. I cried then, more than I had in years, and for the first time, they were tears of peace. Sometimes, the most unexpected moments come while you're stirring sauce in a kitchen, wearing an old apron and humming to the radio. And sometimes, the question you never thought you'd hear becomes the one you'll cherish forever. He asked me if he could call me Mom, and I could not say no.